There are moments in life when the world seems to freeze, when every sound falls silent, and the only thing you feel is the sting of witnessing something that should never have happened. This story begins on a cold Tuesday morning, when fog clung to the streets like a shroud, and the city looked as though it was holding its breath. On that day, a biker named Ryan was heading toward the city's central station, his motorcycle engine humming steadily beneath him, unaware that he was seconds away from seeing something that would shake his soul, ignite a fire in his chest, and ultimately change an entire community. Sometimes fate doesn't whisper. It slams you in the face, and that morning, it hit Ryan harder than the biting winter wind as he watched a police officer slap a homeless man who could barely stand. That single moment would unravel a chain of events that no one, including Ryan himself, could have predicted. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for what's right, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to KindHeartsHub. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. Ryan had always been the kind of man who believed that every person had a story, even the ones who seemed invisible to the world. He had lived his own struggles, years of working night shifts, the loss of his parents in a car accident, and the burden of providing for his younger sister. His motorcycle wasn't just a vehicle, it was his therapy, his escape, his reminder that movement was still possible when life felt static. That morning, as he approached the station, he noticed a commotion near the steps. People were moving quickly, eyes lowered, unwilling to get involved. The city often operated like that, busy, tired, numb. But Ryan was not built that way. His gaze fixed on the scene unfolding near the station entrance, where an officer in uniform stood towering over a frail, disheveled man wrapped in torn layers of clothing. The homeless man looked lost, shaking, his hands raised slightly in fear. Ryan slowed his motorcycle, his heart thudding as he saw the officer shove the man backward and slap him with sharp aggression that echoed off the stone walls. The homeless man stumbled, nearly falling to the ground, his face twisted not just in pain but in humiliation, an expression that stabbed directly into Ryan's chest. Ryan parked his bike abruptly, the tires skidding slightly as he jumped off and sprinted toward the scene. He felt his blood heat with anger, but beneath that anger was something deeper. Years of watching injustice happen around him, years of wishing someone would step in, years of knowing too well what it felt like to be powerless. As he approached, he saw the homeless man clutching a torn backpack, trembling as if he expected another strike. The officer barked something at him, pointing aggressively at the sidewalk. Ryan couldn't hear the words over the roar in his ears, but he didn't need to. The posture said enough, the fear said enough, the shame said everything. As Ryan neared the steps, bystanders looked at him with a mixture of curiosity and relief, as if grateful someone finally decided to intervene. But stepping into conflict with a police officer wasn't a small decision. It was the kind of choice that could change your life, for better or worse. Ryan felt a tremor of fear inside him, but he kept walking. He kept breathing. He kept remembering the nights he wished someone had stepped up for him or his sister when they were alone, scared and hurt. He confronted the officer, not with fists, but with conviction. His voice was steady, though his heart pounded. Ryan wasn't there to fight. He was there to hold a line of humanity the officer had crossed. The officer reacted defensively, irritated, annoyed that someone had challenged his authority. But Ryan didn't back down. He stayed firm, demanding to know why the homeless man had been assaulted, refusing to move until answers were given. The tension grew thick, almost suffocating. People paused, watching, recording. Whispers spread like sparks, and the homeless man, eyes watery, lips trembling, stood silently, unsure whether he should flee or hope. Things escalated quickly. Within minutes, another officer approached. Then two more. The situation felt ready to explode, yet Ryan remained calm, his posture steady, his intention clear. When people saw him stand his ground so quietly yet so powerfully, something shifted. The officers began to step back, realizing the eyes of the public were upon them, and their actions were being documented. Eventually, the senior officer arrived and diffused the conflict, calling the aggressive officer aside. Ryan stayed near the homeless man, making sure he was safe. The man's name was Samuel. He had once been a carpenter, a father, a husband. But life, as it often does, had unraveled him piece by piece. An accident, medical bills, depression, losing his job, losing his home, losing everything that once made him feel like a man worth respecting. Ryan listened to his story as they sat on the cold concrete steps of the station, the noise of the city surrounding them like a distant storm. Samuel's voice cracked with shame as he spoke, his hands trembling not from cold, but from years of carrying invisible weight. Ryan felt tears prick his eyes. This man wasn't weak, he wasn't worthless, he was simply broken, and broken things could still be repaired. Ryan decided he wouldn't leave him there. He guided Samuel to his motorcycle, speaking softly, encouraging him, lifting him both physically and emotionally. People watched, some confused, some inspired, some too ashamed that they had walked past earlier without stopping. As Ryan helped Samuel onto his bike, something incredible began to happen. A few bystanders stepped forward, offering food, money, jackets. Humanity, once sparked, spread like fire. Ryan took Samuel to a nearby shelter, but he didn't stop there. He visited regularly, helped Samuel clean up, arranged medical checks, and even found a small job for him at a mechanic's workshop. Samuel's transformation was slow, fragile, but real. His eyes began to regain light. His shoulders straightened. His voice grew steadier, and Ryan, who had stepped in that day simply because it was the right thing to do, found himself bonded to someone who just needed a second chance. Months passed. The incident at the station did not go unnoticed. Because of the crowd recordings, the aggressive officer faced disciplinary action. Discussions about treatment of vulnerable individuals spread across the city. Awareness campaigns began, and at the heart of it all was a simple moment, a biker seeing something wrong and choosing not to ignore it. Ryan never sought recognition. He never wanted praise. But sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that ripple outward quietly, changing people in ways they don't even realize. One evening, as the sun set in golden streaks behind the city skyline, Samuel approached Ryan holding a small wooden box. It was beautifully carved, polished carefully, clearly made by hands that had once been skilled and steady. Inside the box was a message burned into the wood. "You saw me when no one else did." Ryan felt tears gather at the edges of his eyes. It wasn't the box that moved him. It was the symbolism, the acknowledgement, the gratitude of a man who had almost disappeared into the shadows of society. Their journey didn't end there. It continued with shared meals, shared memories, shared healing. Ryan realized that helping Samuel had healed parts of himself too. Pieces he didn't know were still broken. And Samuel, now employed and stable, began helping others at the shelter, offering advice, comfort, and hope. The man once slapped and discarded by authority became a pillar of strength for those who walked the same dark path he once had. His life became proof that people are not defined by their lowest moments, but by the opportunities they're given to rise again. The story of Ryan and Samuel became a quiet legend in their community, a reminder that compassion is powerful, that standing up for someone is never wasted, and that kindness can transform not just one life, but many. It taught people that heroes don't always wear uniforms or capes. Sometimes they wear helmets, ride motorcycles, and carry bruised hearts with extraordinary courage. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to KindHeartsHub. Your engagement helps spread compassion, one story at a time. Special request: before this video ends, please comment "I believe in kindness." If you stand with humanity, healing, and hope.